Okay, Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah, sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een, bi rahmatika arhamar rahimin. So inshallah, as you all know from the title, we're actually beginning a new series today. And that's a series that a lot of people actually been talking to me about. Why don't you do something particularly for the English speakers? What books should we be reading, and how can we gain knowledge? And so that's something I want to do, inshallah. So today, I'll actually start the topic from the importance of reading, something that we really ignore. As Muslims, mashallah, today is the day and age that we live in. We see people are more indulged into, watching YouTube and, TikTok's a very big one as well, Facebook and all these other things. And when it comes to books, I mean, hardly anyone picks up one and he actually wants to read. See, we need to understand when it comes to our children, and also the grown-ups as well, reading and writing is something very, very important. Today you see that children hardly write. The only thing they do is they type on the keyboard. Yes, that's one type of writing, but we should actually get our children used to taking down notes and using the old method of writing, because it really stimulates the brain, and something that we live in the advent of technology, and we hardly do that. Where else, when we see other people back in the days, they were more engaged when it came to physical writing with a pen, and writing on the books, and something I actually saw in my elders as well, and something I do as well. And people that know me, I don't type that often. I actually write a lot, and even my khutbahs, I actually try to write them down and take notes in writing. So now, why is reading very, very important? I mean, there's often, often quoted ayah from the Quran, "Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq," that read in the name of Allah, Bismi. Rabbik al-Khalaq, the one who has created you. So that's the first message that was given to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Don't have to go in detail, the history, what really happened. So even the Prophet actually was not literate, but he was being told to read. And also what we find, one of the things, if a person learns complex and confusing rules and principles of maths, but ignores their practical application, or never thinks of improving the knowledge with the theories, they cannot be considered that's someone that will be achieving any goals in the maths. Why? Because they can't ignore the practical application. So what's the practical application? You see people today find it hard to read Quran. They hardly read Quran. They don't want to read it, and they just want to listen to it, and they say, oh, it's hard to read, I'm not going to be able to do khatma. Why? Because we've actually lost our reading. Even though we don't understand, but we've got a principle in our religion that we actually make sure that we actually spend a lot of time reading. Why? Because it allows us, and it gives us barakah, and it gives us a source of blessing in our lives. So one of the things that comes to mind is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really emphasized. And moving on, he says, "Iqra wa rabbuka al-akram," read by the most generous. Your Lord is very generous. And then he said, who taught with the pen, allama bil qalam, and he's the one who actually taught you by the pen. So look, there's a lot that can be said, but because we live in the time that we want to get all our knowledge from YouTube, we're listening all the time, we forget reading, and we hardly go to reading. Reading is something very, very important, as I said earlier on as well. It's important, you know. For example, it eliminates doubts. You know, when people say, why do people have more than one wives? It's just a question, but when you go to YouTube, you get so many other people. But if you pick up the Quran or any book, and that explanation that comes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had a wisdom behind that, and we learn that wisdom from reading. And also, yeah, I know we can go and listen to scholars, but something firsthand, picking up a book on Islam and on those questions which have been addressed by scholars, well, actually gives you first-hand knowledge and really enhances your brain as well and improves your vocabulary. There are so many things. And also, if someone actually is someone who likes reading, you will find that they think better than the ones who just binge. The capacity of thinking is much greater than those people, because you, while watching and stimulating your brain in that way, are not able to really make your brain work in best, to really enhance your brain. But if you're reading, you're writing, you're using most parts of your brain to do that, and that really helps you become more intelligent and enhance your brain. So now, moving on, inshallah, one of the books that I would say everyone should have in their library, you can actually download it. This is one of my early books that I got, although I did not read it in entirety, but I have gone through, I've skimmed through it, because I would recommend for the Arabic speakers and also the Urdu speakers to actually look at Al-Itqan al-Quran fi Ulum al-Quran, which is by Allama Jalaluddin Suyuti. Al-Itqan fi Ulum al-Quran. That is actually a very, very good book. But this, for English speaker, which you guys can see, is the introduction to the sciences of Quran. Now, why this book? Why this book? One of the main reasons. Now, first of all, you need to know what is Ulum al-Quran. So Ulum al-Quran are the sciences of Quran that deals with the knowledge of those sciences that have direct bearing on the recitation, history, understanding, implementation of Quran. And so it's a vast field of Islamic scholarship. So it's something, for example, Ulum al-Quran also deals with the sciences of pronunciation. So how to say the words. It also deals with the stages of the revelation. And there are benefits of studying Quran, Ulum al-Quran particularly, the sciences of Quran, is first, it enables a reader to realize the wealth of knowledge and insight that exists inside the book of Allah. It enables the students and also people that are reading better understanding the Quran. Why? Because we start understanding the history, we start understanding the collection of revelation, we start understanding the books of tafsir as well. Thirdly, it really has an impact on your iman. It increases your iman. Why? Because you start realizing the beauty of Quran. That what a great blessing this Quran is, and how Quran is valid to everything in my life. And also, one of the biggest things that we find, that we get fooled by the fallacies of the enemies of Islam, and they put doubts in our heart. But by reading these sciences, we understand the miraculous nature, and we can avoid these doubts coming into our heart. And fourthly, we're able to defend the Quran against the enemies, because we understand, how Quran was revealed and what are the reasons. and we understand all those things. So inshallah, these are some of the things, the benefits of studying of ulum al-Quran. Now, going into particularly why this book. Now, this book has wide, it's a modern book. The reason, if you read a modern text, you probably get more understanding, and why one of you get, it's easy to read, and also it will explore some of the modern challenges as well, which this book actually does towards the end. So now when you start this book, it's particularly it's a go-to for everyone. And why I started with Quran. Quran is one of the most important things. But even before you go to translation, everyone should be invested in reading about the science of Quran. So, for example, when you look at this book, it starts with, as I explained you, the ulum al-Quran, the definition, the introduction. Then it actually gets into the Quran, the linguistic meaning of the word Quran, and it explains you that Quran is the word of Allah. It's not like how people claimed earlier on that this was the creation of Allah. And also it goes inside the inspiration, the concept, the meaning of wahi, the revelation. How does it come down? It speaks about the differences between Quran and Hadith Qudsi. That's one of the differences I often get asked to. It speaks about the gradual revelation. The Quran was a gradual revelation. It actually came down in stages. And then it speaks about the first and the last revelation, which was the first revelation that we just read today, the reading, and also what was the last revelation. And it speaks about the Quranic text that was revealed in Mecca and the Quranic text that was revealed in Medina. And very, very important. Why? Because it tells you the context. Why were these verses revealed in Medina, and why were they revealed earlier on? It also speaks about the causes of revelation. Why was Quran revealed at this particular time, which is also known in Arabic as Bab al-Nuzul. Asbab al-Nuzul is very, very important. Why? Because the reason for the revelation really helps in the context of that particular event. And it speaks about the compilation of Quran. And who was the first one? Was it the Prophet who did it, or was the Sahabas who start compiling the Quran? He speaks about the names, the arrangement, the numbers of surah, the names of surah, the arrangement of surah, and the number of ayahs, and the surahs of Quran. It speaks about those things, and also speaks about why we've got the disjointed letters. We already spoke about them. Also the endings of the surah, the startings of the surah. It speaks about the ahruf of Quran, and what is the ahruf of Quran, why were the 7 ahruf of Quran, and speaks about the qira'at of Quran, why the 10 qira'ats of the Quran, and what are the authentic qira'at of the Quran, and who are the ones who these qira'at or these recitations are related to. And these are very, very important, because some person may come, look at Quran, it's different, your Quran is not the same, this one's reading in a different way. For example, you've got one of the qira'at, there's variations. Okay, so for example, one of the Quran is Sabbah Isma Rabbikal A'la. Okay, that's something we say, but then there's another qira'at we say Alay. And then Wadduha, the other qira'at say Wadduhay. And so and then you've got these qira'at there, so they are the ones, the different way of reading. Does it change the meaning? It's important. and then you've got the muhkam ayat, and you've got the mutashabih ayat, which are actually the clear and the unclear verses. And he's actually gone into it and he's explained it. Then you've got the naskh and mansukh. Now this is something very, very important. So the abrogation, I mean, this is often said, oh, Allah revealed that these ayats are abrogated, should we read them, are they in the Quran? But one of the ways Dr. Yasir Qadhi puts it, it's in a good way. He says the word abrogation should not be really used. It should be said specification. Why? Because the ayah that came early was a general ayah, and later the ayah that came was more specific. So it was giving more specification to it, and speaks about the miraculous nature and how should we interpret Quran as well. One of the other very, very important things, the tafsir of Quran. How do we write tafsir of Quran? Why is it important? What kind of knowledge do we need to have in order to write the tafsir of Quran? Also, it speaks about what are some of the great tafsirs that we can read, and some of the famous tafsirs that we can read, and then he says about the translation. What are the translations of Quran? What are the good ones? What are the bad ones? What are the conditions? And speaks about them as well. And then he speaks about the Quran and the Orientalists. And this is what I was talking about. Well, it speaks about some of the books of the Orientalists, how they came. For example, the collection of Quran by John Burton, and refuting that. And then speaking about the materials or the history of the text of Quran by Arthur Jeffrey. So looking at those, arguments that are presented. So in a nutshell, what I want to say, and I want to say, summarize, or I want to actually conclude over here, that these books are very, very important. Fill your shelf with some Islamic books, some basic ones, which I'll be going through every Sunday, and I'll be giving you an idea. We're doing tafsir of Quran. Tafsir of Quran without this kind of knowledge is not complete. So please invest yourself into these books. Inshallah, if Allah gives me life, I started Ulum al-Quran. I've actually got over 7 lessons that I gave in the school. I'm in the middle of completing that. Once I complete it, I'll be more than happy to share it with you and also take it further. If anyone listening to me, I know there's not a lot of people at the moment, but if anyone listening to me is happy to help me out with editing, please reach out to me, text me, or email me, or leave a comment. I actually have got a large amount of work to be edited. I'm more than happy to share it with the people that are interested, because sometimes it does take a lot of time, and if someone's happy to help me with that kind of stuff, I'll be more than happy to publish more material. So inshallah, with that, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to get knowledge and to benefit from that knowledge that we get, and inshallah we become that people that have love for this religion. وجزاكم الله خيرا. أقول قولي هذا استغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفر الله